Hey guys, welcome back to Antonio Valente Flowers. Today I wanted to show you how I go about planting a Bareroot rose. Now, planting a Bareroot rose isn't as intimidating as you think. I think most people are sort of accustomed to going to the local garden center and purchasing a rose that was potted and then planting that. But planting a Bareroot rose is actually my preferred method of planting a rose. I find that you get a much better rose that first year, right off the bat, because the plant suffers virtually no transplant shock. And so I want to show you what I do to plant the Bareroot roses. And before you get to this stage, it's important that the rose bush stays moist and wet. So you're going to want to keep it somewhere cool and damp. I had these healed into the ground. So healing in is just a method of temporarily planting the roses in the ground until you are ready for planting them. So see my previous video on healing in roses if you've missed that. And if you hadn't healed them in and you say, let's say they arrive through mail order and you're going to plant them right away, you're going to want to soak them overnight in a bucket of water. You want the root system nice and saturated for the roses to be planted. Now, the next thing I do is, with my shovel, I've already done that. I've dug out a nice generous hole here in this rose bed to accommodate the entire root system, but also so that I can incorporate a generous amount of compost. It's really important. Roses are heavy feeders. They will also be in this bed for years to come. So you really want to amend the soil as well as you can. And so what I've done with the soil that I've taken out of this hole, I've gone and I've incorporated a good 2 full spadefuls of compost. You could even really do 3. And then what I've done is, at the bottom of this hole, I've taken some of that soil that I've mixed in with the mushroom compost, and I've made just a little bit of a cone in the middle of the hole, and that is so that I can spread the roots out evenly around that cone at the bottom of my hole, and so that is just sitting really nicely and the roots are spread out around the hole nice and evenly. So I am going to start by doing that. And here in zone 5B, I want the bud union of the rose to be just below the surface of the soil once it's done and once it's planted. So the bud union is this right here. It's the swollen portion of the rose bush just above the root system, but below the rose cultivar. And what they've done here is they've taken the rose cultivar and they've grafted it to a much hardier root stock or root system. In warmer zones, you could actually have the bud union above the surface of the soil, but here in zone 5, we're a little bit on the colder side and I want this below the surface of the soil. So I'm going to take my rose, I'm going to set it over that cone that I've created in the bottom of the hole. And if you aren't sure that the bud union is below the surface of the soil at the depth that you have the rose here, what you could do is you could take your shovel and you can kind of just sort of use that as a level, and you can think, oh yeah, that's below the surface of the soil, I'm good to go. So we can place that back. So I'm going to start with that, and with one hand holding the rose bush in the hole here, I'm going to start backfilling with the soil that I've incorporated lots of compost in. And once I'm about halfway full, I'm going to go in and I'm going to firm the soil just to get rid of any air pockets. We don't want air pockets, because if a root starts to grow and it hits an air pocket, it could dry out. So we don't want that. And once you're about halfway full, you're going to take some water and you're just going to give it a good drink. Okay, so firm in the soil, is what I meant to say first, and then add water, not the reverse. And then we're going to continue backfilling our rose. We're going to get that nice and into the ground. And again, firming around the soil, around the bush. And then the last thing I want to do is I am actually going to hill up the roses with some compost. And I know that almost sounds counterproductive. You're probably thinking, Antonio, we hill them up in the autumn to get them through the winter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hill them up so that the canes don't dry up. Okay, at this stage, the rose is a little bit vulnerable to drying. So in order to prevent that, I'm going to hill them up for a good 2 weeks. So I'm going to take some additional compost, which I have right here, and I'm going to hill up the rose. And I'm going to leave this rose hilled, like I said, for about 2 weeks, just so that the rose has a chance to put out those feeder roots that will then absorb enough moisture to support the canes and the new buds that are growing. After that 2 week period, I'm going to come around and I'm going to remove this mulch, and it's a nice, really good quality mulch, so I can just sort of use it to top dress around the rose bush, and the rose at that point will be ready to go, and I will have not risked drying out any of the canes. All right, guys, so that is planting a bare root rose. Like I said, it's actually my preferred method for planting roses in general, because I find that they just take off better. They have a really good start. There's virtually zero transplant shock, and you have a really nice rose bush right from the get-go, right from that first season. All right, guys, that's it from me. So thank you and have a lovely spring day.